my panel of evangelical leaders. Pastor Corey Brooks, senior pastor and founder of Chicago's New Beginnings Church and founder of Project Hood. Dr. Robert Jeffress, First Baptist Church, Dallas senior pastor and Fox News contributor. And Father Gerald Murray, St. Joseph's Church pastor in New York City. Jillian Anderson is here. Jillian Anderson King is Christian influencer and Turning Point Faith ambassador. Great to have you all. I want to start really basic here, and I know I broke that down by demographics. Our Brain Room did some research on that. The headline is something that I saw in Newsweek magazine, and they've been covering this. Dr. Jeffress, Christians, millions of them are saying that they're not going to vote this time around. Not going to vote.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dereliction of duty for a Christian not to vote in this election. You know, it was John Jay, the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court back in 1812, who said, God has given us the privilege of choosing our leaders in this Christian nation, and it's our duty to prefer Christians as our leaders. I mean, he would be called a Christian nationalist today for saying this is a Christian nation, but it is. And it is important that we vote. The leaders we elect determine the policies we follow, and the policies we follow determine the moral and spiritual direction of our entire country. But Harris, I think one reason so many Christians are disheartened is they don't understand the role of government. God is the one who created government. He created the church and the family as well. Government has one purpose. It's not to raise our children for us. It is not to bring a spiritual revival to the country. It is to punish evildoers and keep citizens safe. That's what Romans 13 says. And so we're electing not a pastor. We're electing a president, a protector for our nation. And that's why I believe for the last 9 years that Donald Trump is the best candidate for president. He is the one who can keep our nation safe. And that's what God's purpose for government is. So I encourage every Christian to get out there and vote. Again, there are no perfect pastors, there are no perfect presidents, but I think you have to choose the best.
Father Murray, I see you. Everybody here was nodding. The only thing we were missing was a verbal amen, I think.
And an offering.
Right. Well, that's certainly not my job. But, Father, I want to hear your perspective on this, why people might not go to the polls, and what you think they're looking for.
Well, people are looking for leadership. They're looking for morality. I think they're looking for inspiration. You know, we do tend to look at our presidents and elected officials as people who are going to show us what we ought to do, how we ought to do it. And in order to find the right ones there, we have to listen to what they say. And there's so many disappointing things coming from the Democratic side of the aisle these days. And then people are not always happy with the Republican side either. But then you have to, as a pastor said, you have to weigh the options. And I think people genuinely believe that if we elect someone who supports morality, civil rights for the unborn, protects children from doctors who want to mutilate them, give them pills they don't need, people want to take rights away from the church. And I was very upset when Kamala Harris was a senator. She attacked a judge candidate who was a member of the Knights of Columbus, which, as Catholics will know and others may know, it's a fraternal organization to promote civic service and religious duties. So I'm very afraid when the government starts telling us religion is in second place, government's in first place. And I think that's why people say we need a leader who doesn't believe that.
You know, Pastor Brooks, it is interesting to hear clergy talk, though, about politics, because we're always, oh, no, church and state, they're so separate. But as we're already hearing at this roundtable, they're not, if you think in terms of voting with your values. I'm curious to get your thoughts.
Yeah, you know, voting with our values is so important, especially in the day and time where we're living in, where there's been such a great falling away from morality. People are seeming to live their lives as they so fit without God. And that's one of the reasons why it's important that, you know, from my point of view, that we support President Trump. No one has done more to support religious liberty than President Trump. Appointing judges who have upheld religious liberties is so important. And so when we think about our faith, this is an election where we really can say our faith is on the ballot. And we have to do everything we can to make sure that our values and the morality that we believe in are at the center of everything we do.
Look, you saw that breakdown of polling, and I just want to be candid about this. Why does that break down along race? That people that share the same Christian values, it would seem, will vote according to their skin color and hair texture in the polling. That's what they tell the surveys for Kamala Harris before they would vote for Donald Trump. Why do you think that is?
It's unfortunate that identity politics have become the order of the day in America. Unfortunately, because we have identity politics from a black perspective, our culture, we voted Democrat 90% of the time. If we're going to progress and if we're going to make sure that we're not left behind, we're going to have to diversify. We're going to have to make sure that we start voting values, not identity. And that's what I'm promoting, and that's what I continue to tell people all the time.
Jillian, before I come to you, I want to bring this into the conversation. Some religious groups have been critical of Donald Trump's position on abortion. Here's exactly what he said at last month's debate, and we'll get some reaction here.
For 52 years, they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban, because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else.
Jillian, I wanted you here today because as a faith influencer, you're constantly talking, particularly to young women. Where does that land with young women? He's giving the power back to the states.
Well, I'm not just an influencer, I'm a mother myself, and you're a mother, and you know exactly when that life starts, and the Bible also says when that life starts. And I would tell Christian voters, evangelical voters, that I would remind them that Donald Trump was the most pro-life president we've ever had in history. And he gave things back to the states. Now, I think it's up to pastors, local leaders, and people around the country to now work with their local legislators. It's up to them. Trump gave the power to the states, so now it's up to us to work on our local legislators to do the right thing. I live in Florida, where Ron DeSantis gets a lot of hate for the 6-week ban. However, we're the 5th leading state in abortions. In my county alone, we're the 2nd leading county in abortions. We have a high population, but that speaks to, the leadership. What are we doing in our own towns, in our own states? How are we working with our own legislators to correct?
I want to follow up on that. So you do, it is one of the strictest things that we've seen, the 6-week ban. And you're saying that the numbers are still high. How is that possible?
I think that's because a lot of the abortions happen so early, especially with the chemical abortions and things like that. I think the numbers are a little hard to track, but that's what we're seeing a heightened, especially since COVID, when those things became way more accessible.